Hello everybody, my name is Megan. You're watching Miss Megan Knits. Links to everything I talk about will be in the description box below. How is everybody doing? It's been a little while since I last podcasted. School started back up. I'm officially a student taking like real actual credit classes, part-time but still, and having a hard time adjusting. So that's why the video hasn't come up until now. It's more like 2-3 weeks. I'm trying to get used to how much work I have to do in a day and how to fit that in with my schedule and all that stuff. So a little bit tricky, but I think I've got it for now at least. So, you know, we should have regular videos coming out soon. Today is the day of applied borders. I have 2 different projects that I'm doing applied borders with. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. It was something I never really knew how to do till I did it the first time, and then now I'm doing kind of an easy one and kind of a complex one in 2 different projects, so it's working out pretty well. I'm pretty excited, but that's going to be kind of our theme for today. I actually didn't think I was doing all that much knitting, or I was mostly knitting on one project, the pie shawl I've been working on. I've been really going at that one. But then I started to kind of compile the stuff that I wanted to talk about here together, and I realized I have kind of a lot, so this should be a fairly entertaining video for you all to watch. So first up is FOs. Now, I'm sure you all are so just really excited to hear about the dish scrubbies. I know you're just riveted and on the edge of your seat, like, is she making dish scrubbies? Well, the answer is, I did finish off that skein of scrubby yarn in making scrubbies, and I will show them and I will talk about them, but I have not purchased any more scrubby yarn. I will not be making more scrubbies for a little while, so you'll get a break from hearing about them. But first, I'm going to talk about them. So I made about 2 scrubbies this past 2 weeks. I finished up that ball of scrubby yarn. I have this much left over, which might actually be enough for another scrubby, but I'm tired of making them. I've made a bunch. So I have this much scrubby yarn left. I'm going to save it for something. You never know what it could be useful for, and I have a hard time throwing away yarn, even in small quantities like this. But we'll see how this ends up getting used. By the way, that was Red Heart Scrubby Sparkle Yarn in the colorway Oyster. With 1 ball, I have made, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 1 in my sink right now, 9 scrubbies. What am I going to do with 9 scrubbies? Well, one of my 2020 goals is to do a craft fair. So hopefully these will go to the craft fair. They use relatively little yarn, they take relatively little time. I think I can do them in about an hour and a half each. So I can sell them for relatively cheap. Now to make these, I used the Scrub-A-Dubby pattern by Brenda Myers. I believe it's Brenda Myers. And it's a great pattern designed for 1 strand of scrubby yarn held together with 1 strand of cotton. For the cotton, I used the cotton mill ends I've been trying to use up, that I bought a whole bunch of when I was having a little manic episode. And now I'm trying to use it because I feel bad about buying so much. They were really cheap. It was like $5 a pound for this yarn, but it's a lot of cotton and I don't know what to do with it all. You've heard that story a million times if you watch me regularly or in the past. It looks really good. I really like the purple. I think the purple are my favorite. But the blue also look really good, and even the yellow. I was a little apprehensive about using the yellow. I didn't think it would look good, but it looks fine. I quite like them. I made these on my 24 peg 5/8 gauge round loom. This is a boy loom. I've mentioned in previous videos that I don't like the boy looms. If you want to hear more about that, Loom a Hat did a great review of the boy looms that basically sums up everything I've experienced with them as well. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. The pattern was written, I believe, for a 20 peg loom, but the designer gives adjustments for different number of pegs loom as long as it's a 5/8 gauge loom, you should be okay. I mean, obviously not if it's like a 32 peg. 32 might work. No, it'd be really big. Or like a 40 peg loom that's like this big. Like that's not going to make a scrubby this size. And these scrubbies are a little bit bigger in dimensions than the scrubbies in the pattern, but they look great. They're great for washing dishes. They're just wonderful. So I hope people will like them. That's enough talk about scrubbies. So those were really my only FO. Those 2 scrubbies that I made were my first finishes of 2020. And my only finishes of 2020 because I've been working so diligently on that pie shawl and on the shawl I'm designing, which I will talk more about later, as well as a couple of quick projects I did start and plan. So I've been pretty busy actually. So now we're going to move on to whips, and I'm going to show that pie shawl I've been talking about. So Get ready. It's a good one. Knit Picks Chart Keeper. This is the premium one, but the regular ones work too. Love this thing. I got it for Christmas. I've been using it on these charts. It's wonderful. I can't open it up and show you the inside because I have a chart in there, but the thing is so cool. You can open it up and fold it backwards, and these little snaps will snap to the back, and you can make like a tent almost that you can view your chart in. It's wonderful. First off, for this shawl, we'll talk about the yarn. The yarn I'm using is Cloudborn Fibers Baby Alpaca Fingering in Autumn Heather. It's more of a light fingering. Ravelry classifies it as a light fingering, and I would agree. Very lightweight, very soft, very plump and squishy. I cannot wait to wash this and block it because it's going to be phenomenal. This is in the shade Autumn Heather, if I didn't say that already. 201 yards to 50 grams. Hand wash normal, do not wring, dry flat, do not iron. Made with love in Peru, Cloudborn Fibers. Let me get a close up of that. See the halo? The color isn't quite showing true. It's getting kind of grayed in the video. It's a little more warm than that. I don't wear a lot of brown, but I do wear a lot of like reds and mustard yellows and blacks and grays. So I think that this will go with my wardrobe is what I'm saying. My mom picked it out for me, the kit, for Christmas. You can see I'm working with like this much of my yarn left. I still have 2 skeins left over to do the border, so I'm not worried about running out, but untangle all this from each other. To do the applied border around the edge, which is what I'm on, it was a little tricky to figure out. The blueprint pattern did not have very detailed explanations. I went to the designer's blog. Donna Dracunas designed this shawl. This is the Berry Pie Shawl by Donna Dracunas. And she had a tutorial video on how to do the applied border, which was great, but I couldn't make it work exactly. So I fudged the first row, and then everything went beautifully from there. I feel like I will have to fudge the last row as well, and it will be like a little seam in the middle. It won't be perfectly grafted together, but honestly, I don't care at this point. It was like 4:30 in the morning when I was trying to do that first row of the applied border. I was after taking my mom to the airport, that's why I was up so early. And it was just a mess, so it'll be interesting. But anyway, it's coming out beautifully. Like, I'm very, very happy with the results. Let me untwist everything from each other. I've got needles going every which way because with the applied border, I've done a 16-inch circular, which I was using for the shawl when it was that size. And she recommends using a DPN, but it's the same thing. Oh, you can hear my dog in the background. She recommends using a DPN, but same deal. Because it's so difficult to try and manage with the 2 needles that you're on with the circular needle. So, which means I've got needles everywhere. Un momento, por favor. So this is the shawl. It's all kind of crunched on the needle right now, but it's going to expand. You can see the part that's been, the applied border's been done. And basically, if you've never done an applied border before, it's like a fancy bind off. So you knit everything. You can see my needles are going perpendicular to the shawl. You actually knit this way, and when you come back in towards the shawl, you either knit 2 together or slip knit or something with one of the stitches on the shawl and one of the stitches on the border. So that way it gets kind of bound off. So this shawl is beautiful. Let me start from the center because that's how it always worked. It starts with kind of a simple center. That way you can get your feel for how things are going, how your increases work, things like that. It goes into a honeycomb ring. And then it goes into these circles. Good view of circles, yeah. Once it's blocked, it'll be beautiful. This is a project that I'm gonna do like an actual photo shoot with. Not like an actual photo shoot, but like I'm gonna have someone take pictures of me with the shawl and take pictures of the shawl because it's a lot of work. I put a lot of time and effort into it. You know, some of your pictures you just plop them on the kitchen table and snap a pic for gallery, but this one I'm gonna do a lot with because I took a lot of time with it. And then there's a big honeycomb section. These are all double yarn overs, which makes them extra big and extra loopy. And then we have a diamond section. Let me pull this out. And then we have the applied border, which includes both double yarn overs and regular yarn overs. So you see these down here are regular yarn overs and these are double yarn overs. It is stunning. It is soft, it is drapey, it is bouncy, it is airy and light, it is stunning. Now, if you heard that giggle, it's because she has a toy that when you roll it, it makes little giggly noises, and she quite enjoys it. Sorry. I am so excited to be done with this. So excited. So excited. It's taken me forever. I've been working on it since Christmas. It is February 10th. So excited to have this done. It's probably the most intricate lace I've ever done. Definitely the most intricate lace I've ever done. Probably the most intricate thing I've ever done. So I'm just thrilled to show it off, really. Wear it to church, have all the church ladies like, ooh, fawn over it. You know, it'll be great. Okay, that's enough of pie shawl. I've been talking about that for a long time. My second whip also has an applied border that I'm on right now. Now, I'm not sure if anybody has watched my first video, and if you have, I am sorry. Because of the video quality was like not good, the lighting was bad, the tripod was rocking back and forth and making noise, the dog is barking. The ice machine is going. Anyway, I talked about some of the favorite things that I've ever knit, and one of those things was these gully gloves. I have a magazine for them where the pattern is called Welted Mitts. I got them in the Quick and Easy Knits magazine from Interweave. But regardless, it's the same pattern. I did a color change on every row, or every welt had a color change. Now if you notice, the mitt is knit in the round from the bottom up, and I'm using these as a demonstration. I'll link to my Ravelry page where I talk about all the yarns and stuff I used. I talked about that in my first video as well. But I'm just talking about the construction on these because the other one I'm working on has needles coming out of it everywhere, and that makes it a little difficult to do. But it's knit in the round from the bottom up, and then this is an applied border that starts over here and is worked this way, just like on the pie shawl, except this is just a garter stitch, so it's easier, all the way up to this point, and then you just stitch a little bit, just that little bit together, seam it, and then it becomes a mitt. So that's your thumb hole right there. You put it on, stick your thumb through the hole. If you want more warmth on your fingers, you can leave it like this. If you want more flexibility and dexterity in your fingers, you can bend it down and have a little bit more wiggle room. I will show you the ones I'm working on because I'm making another pair. This one's for the craft fair. I had some scraps. This is a great pattern for scraps because each of these takes about 2 grams of yarn and the tops take about 15 grams. So you can actually weigh your yarn and determine if you have enough. It's easy peasy. So you can see I'm not done with this one yet. I kind of was inspired by like galaxy colors. I don't know if it came out quite right. It's a little bit wild, but I think someone will like it. I'll like it, so someone will like it. These are just miscellaneous scraps I had laying around, and I'll talk about them in a minute. You can see how it was knit in the round and on DPNs, and then the applied border is done with a smaller DPN, going this way, and knitting 2 together with stitches from the bottom. Like I said, this is from Quick and Easy Knits magazine from Interweave. And let's open to the picture page. These are the Welted Mitts by Kelly McClure, again on Ravelry. She calls them Gully Gloves by Kelly McClure. And also, if you buy the pattern on Ravelry, there are options to do like an actual thumb that has covering in it. And there are options to make the thing shorter or longer, garter cuff, no garter cuff. There's a lot more options. So if you're gonna get the pattern, I recommend doing it that way, unless you have this laying around already. You can see there are actually 2 versions. So you can see there's a version here. Look at this picture here. Version here, where it's actually welted all the way up with a thumb hole there. And then you can see this version is the version I did with the garter cuff. So lots of options. She has 3 different sizes, which are interesting. I just did the size small because that's what I did a while ago when I made the first ones. And I used the same size needles I did when I made the first ones. I didn't gauge swatch, and they're coming out kind of small. People have been saying the mediums are kind of large on Ravelry, and I looked at the projects, so I don't really know. But it will definitely fit someone's arm. Maybe a teenager or me, because I have small wrists, but the only problem I have with doing it this way with the color changes is that you have a bunch of ends to weave in. Like a ton of ends, because there's one to start and stop every row. You're not carrying them because it's random. If you did only 2 colors and carried them, it might not be too bad, but that's kind of how that goes. The yarns I used, let me pull them out one by one. This teal is Karen 1 pound in the colorway. I've been calling it teal. It might be aqua. Not entirely sure. You might recognize this as leftover from my platypus. This is Peyton's Classic Wool worsted in some sort of plummy color. This one is from Darn Good Yarn when I got their subscription box. Didn't like their subscription box, but I had this yarn, and it's silk. It's beautiful yarn. I only got 50 grams of it and didn't know what to do with it, but it's beautiful. So it's a little bulkier than the rest of the yarns. Everything else is more of a worsted. This might be a bulky or a heavy yarn. So not positive it'll all work out properly, but it's kind of supposed to be bubbly, so I'm just going with it. More Peyton's Classic Wool. And all this will be on my Ravelry page with the actual names of everything, so if you want to know that, you can go there. This is Barocco Levitt in black. And you can see I have a mix of fibers. I have some wool, I have some acrylic, I have some cotton. The Darn Good Yarn one was silk. This is Karen Simply Soft in Dark Country Blue, left over from Bear's Hat. And this is Lion Brand Feels Like Butter in brown. I left over from my zigzag cowl that I designed. My first ever design. Is that it? That's it. The needles I'm using are the Knitter's Pride Ginger sock needles. They're a little short, but they're working pretty well, so can't complain too much. I just feel like the stitches are going to slide off the ends because I'm used to working with longer beefy ends. But they're beautiful needles. I really like the grip. It's some grip, but not too much grip. I'm using size 5 and size 6. I'm going to talk about Plarn. I have been working on Plarn. I used up a whole bunch of Plarn, making my last Plarn mat, got some more bags from church, 2 ginormous bags full of bags. So I've been trying to work on those. If you don't know Plarn, I've been talking about it pretty much every video. I have a video called All About Plarn, which I will link, that explains how to do it, why to do it, what I'm doing, all that stuff. So I'm just going to kind of show you the progress. Trying to do it artistic, so most of these are red and white bags, probably from Market Basket. And then I've got a couple of tan stripes going on. I don't have much to say about it. It's the same as all the other ones I do. I'm happy with it. I think it's coming out well. It's really relaxing to do because it's all just single crochets, so you're just kind of in the zone, just kind of relaxing, listening to a podcast, listening to some upbeat music. I've been listening to the soundtrack from Something Rotten lately. It's a really funny show about a couple of playwrights and contemporaries of Shakespeare, and the music is really good. So if you're looking for a good show to listen to and you're into show tunes, that's a good one. My next thing I'm working on is I'm designing a shawl. And this shawl was inspired by Gooseberry Island, a little island sort of near me. And all the beautiful elements of that island. I was taking a walk there with Bear, and I was really, really inspired by all of it. It was just beautiful, even in the cold, you know. I think it was January when I took that walk. And it's cold, especially by the water, but it was beautiful. So I've been knitting up swatches, picking stitch patterns, and then lately I've been working on stitch counts and multiples and making sure everything fits in the shawl and doing all the charts and stuff like that. So I'm definitely working on that. I'm going to try and get a pattern together before I knit it myself. That way I have something to kind of follow, as well as I can kind of edit it as I go. You know, if I have a rough draft, I can kind of make notes on it and change it and alter it and make sure everything fits perfectly and I have the right stitch counts before I send it out to be test knit, I guess. I don't really have access to test knitters. So maybe I'll find a Ravelry group that will be willing to do it for me. Because this shawl is definitely complicated enough that it needs to be test knit. You know, I can't just knit it and say it's good. You know, it needs to be tested. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitch patterns in it to represent the different elements of Gooseberry Island that I found to be the most important and the most inspiring. So the yarn I used to knit these swatches is a Barocco Ultra Wool Fine. I wanted something in kind of a medium color so I could see the stitch patterns really well, in a wool so that I could block it, and also not too expensive, so this worked pretty well. So the stitch patterns I'm going to use and what they mean. Also, I know a lot of people who are on YouTube and designing kind of keep their designs secret until they're unveiled. But I kind of want to show the process and talk about the process. because it's important to me, and it also keeps me motivated. Like if everybody's expecting some kind of shawl that looks like this, then I will have more motivation to actually do it. So I'm gonna kind of work from the inside out. This shawl is a top-down trapezoidal, so triangle with a center panel shawl, and it's gonna have background designs on the edges and a more complicated design down the middle. So the first complicated design in the middle is the towers. Gooseberry Island has watchtowers left over from, I believe, World War II. Could have been something else. Cold War, maybe? I don't know. Left over from a war. And this is the Swedish block pattern from the book Easy Textured Knits. So I'm working on that one. For the background, there's also grasses. There's a lot of grasses and paths that surround the towers. So I'm using linen stitch. I've used linen stitch for other stuff before, but this particular linen stitch is from the book Up, Down, All Around Stitch Dictionary. It's the exact definition I'm using. Now, you work out on the island, you get a very rocky beach, like it's mostly rock, with some shells. And I like to go there after big storms because you get these beautiful shells washed up, and they're just like cool. They're cool looking to pick up, especially in the winter when people aren't combing it as much. It's really interesting to find cool shells and stuff there. So my first is a garter cockle shell from the book 50 Fabulous Knit Garter Stitches. And what's cool about the 50 Fabulous Knit Garter Stitches book, so there's no purling in any of it. No purling whatsoever. In any of these 50 stitches, there is no purling. Which, if you're someone who hates purling, that's cool. There are a lot of really complicated stitches in it, so it's not a super easy book to follow. And there are no charts. It's all written out, which is a pain. But it's got lots of cool stitches in it that you don't have to purl for. I'm using another stitch from here as well. This, for the rocks, I represented with the pebble stitch. This is from Up, Down, All Around Stitch Dictionary. And then you go out again, and you have a little layer of sand and a lot of beautiful birds, a lot of beautiful ocean birds. The birds are crazy. They're teeny little baby birds and really big birds and just birds. So, to represent the birds, I've chosen arrowheads from the 50 Fabulous Knit Garter Stitches. And you can see how they make like V's, that's like bird wings, with a little bird body in the middle with like some slip stitches. It's a really cool pattern. And then for the sand, I was thinking and what could represent sand. And I tried some like sandy cables that would make like, but it just wouldn't look right in this direction of the shawl. And then I realized good old reverse stockinette. So that's exactly what I'm doing. These are just the back side of good old stockinette stitch. Looks like grains of sand pretty much, kind of basic. The sand is very flat and smooth because the only places that have sand are the places where the waves wash over them and smooth everything out. So I think it works. Speaking of waves, this is the waves edging from the Top Down All Around Stitch Dictionary. I'm going to block this out. I used some stockinette rows just to see the edging, but this is the hardest one for me. The ones that are in the middle, the complicated stitches, are just in a square, right? And the ones that are on the edges are very simple patterns, so they're easy to do when you're increasing. This has to be done on the bottom and on increases because I'm going to do it all around the edge of the shawl. And I'm having a lot of difficulty with an 18 stitch repeat trying to figure out how to work it with the increases. And I think not only is it a matter of increases, but it's a matter of centering on the middle of the shawl to make sure everything looks symmetrical. So that's my chart so far. It looks like this. That couple of rows right there is what I need to figure out how to do. This is for the right side of the chart. The right side of the chart before the middle panel, and I think if I just flip it, like mirror image it, it'll work for the other side as well, but I'm not entirely positive. So I've got to do some more thinking on that. That's where my brain power has been expended lately. But anyway, so I just wanted to run through the stitch dictionaries I'm using. I already showed you the 50 Fabulous Knit Garter Stitches. This is the Up, Down, All Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy Bernard. And this is the Leisure Arts Easy Textured Knits. which is like the opposite of the garter one. This one is all knits and purls. So all the books in here are knits and purls. All the stitches in here are knits and purls. All the stitches in the garter one are no purls. This one has a variety of cables and colorwork and everything, so I definitely needed to have this in my collection. I actually got it from the library. I got a whole bunch of stitch from the library and swatched a bunch of stuff, and that book impressed me so much that I needed to buy the book. So I bought the book. My mom bought it for me on Amazon. She's very supportive. So that's all my whips in my design. For the future projects, I thought I'd talk about some of the things that are inspiring me. Now, of course, these might not come to fruition because I change my mind a lot. But I've been thinking I want to crochet. You've been seeing all this. There's been there's been the Plarn single crochets. That's kind of boring. I haven't been crocheting. So I'm kind of like up in the air about, I want to start a crochet project, but I'm not sure what to do. And I'm kind of torn between doing something kind of simple and doing something kind of complex. Now, if I'm going to crochet, I should probably make something for the craft fair to build on my inventory. And with a craft fair, you want mostly things that people will actually buy. So you want things that are a reasonable price for what they are, even if they weren't handmade. But you also want some big fancy things to kind of draw people in and go, wow, this is like crazy talented, and then they'll buy something smaller. So I'm kind of torn between doing something a little more complicated, and of course that would still be for sale. You just put a reasonable price tag for like the amount of hours you spend doing it, and people might not, they think it's too much, you know, $60 for a stuffed giraffe is too much, but it's reasonable for the amount of time I would spend on it and the amount of materials I would spend on it. Anyway, I'm very torn. One of the things I want to make is from the book Cuddly Animals to Crochet, 28 Cute Toys to Make You Love, Lucia Forthman. You'll recognize this book. I made a platypus, and I will probably put a picture here. I don't know what to call him, actually. He's in Perry the Platypus colors. He lives on my bed now. But I don't know how long that one took me because there was a lot of hibernating in between doing him. So I don't know how long any of these other creatures will take me. But there's been two in particular that have really caught my eye. Well, they're all catching my eye. This is Petty the giraffe. So cute, and I have the yarn. Or I don't have this exact yarn, but I have yellow and brown yarn so that I can make the giraffe. She's so cute. And then the zebra. Agatha the zebra. I think this is so cool doing a multicolored yarn for the stripes paired with a white. I have a multicolored yarn. It's left over from this blanket. These middle circles. And I think that would be so cool against white for the zebra. So I have yarn for this one too. But they're all super cute. The cow is adorable with the udders. This is the platypus I already made. Actually, I made him teal. Just so many cute toys, and they're actually stuffed animal huggable size. They're not these tiny little amigurumi things. Although if you made them smaller yarn, they could be tiny. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Or, I brought this blanket as a demonstration. Making some kind of baby blanket. Maybe with a matching hat or something in this pattern. So this is the square in the circle pattern. I don't remember the designer's name, but I'll link it below so you can get to it. This was super fun to make, super easy, and I think I could do a really cool baby blanket out of it because it's just the square pattern, so you can put as many squares as you want. This one's a throw size, but could be any size you really wanted. I was thinking maybe it'd be cool to do the background, the square part, in like a regular yarn, right? Nice acrylic, good for babies. And do the middle circles in different textured yarns. So think like Bernat blanket or velvet yarns, different velvet ones. Lion Brand homespun. Maybe that one's too fluffy for a baby. I wouldn't do that one. It's machine washable, but I think it would be too fluffy. But just different like chenille or velvet or boucle, just like textured yarns, that novelty yarns. I think that would be really cool. Because then, you know, you have something to kind of tactile, like feel, and it's a difference in texture, so it's really interesting. I don't know, I think that might be good. But anyway, I'm torn between, because I only have so many project slots, 5. I limit myself to 5 whips, and I have 4 going right now, so I can't start both. So it's a matter of whether I want to do an animal or a blanket. Animal or blanket. Animal or blanket. And I've been indecisive, so I haven't decided, so I haven't done anything yet. Okay. My last thing. I did acquire some stuff. As you may know, AC Moore is going out of business. As you also may... tilted? I've been tilted this whole time. Okay, I'm gonna leave it because we're already 36 minutes into filming. But I am so sorry for being tilted. I feel like I'm tilted. Am I tilted now? I feel like I'm tilted now. I think that's better. So I did acquire some stuff. They're having a big going out of business sale. Their yarn wasn't that much discounted. Sometimes 15%, sometimes 30%. I was expecting a lot heavier discount on some of their yarns, so I didn't buy very much. But I did buy a couple things. And their needles and notions were discounted a lot. Problem is, I'm not a big fan of craft store needles anymore. I used to use them. I've kind of graduated to the nicer stuff. But I did get some stuff, so I'm going to show you. For the record, brown paper bag, plastic bags are banned in the town I shop in, which is good. It's good for the environment, but I don't know what to do with all these brown paper bags. The first thing I got was a jumbo hook and some jumbo needles. Jumbo. Giant. Needles and hook. These are for like roving or whatever. I was thinking maybe Plarn would be useful for them, but they're kind of big for Plarn, I think. Yeah, see? So this is a Plarn hook. This is a Q. Very different in size. So probably not good for Plarn, but good for something, or for like, you know, an art piece. Let me hang it on the wall. 25 millimeters. This is a U hook. 25 millimeters. Very good. Next, I also got some US 50 25 millimeters needles. Also for roving or whatever. They're a circular cord. It's a 32-inch circular. Also good for something. The reason I bought them is because I didn't have them. And I want to be able to have the tools to do whatever I want with whatever I want, and they were deeply discounted, so I bought them. I also bought a shawl pin, like a $2 shawl pin. It's beautiful. This is Stitch Studio by Nicole Shawl Pin. So disappointed that that brand is going out of business with AC Moore. Michaels acquired AC Moore, so they might bring back some of the Nicole stuff, which I hope they do because their yarn was really good. But if not, then goodbye Nicole's. I'm very sad. Even trying to look up for links when I've used their yarns since they've been discontinued to find a link to the yarn online has been very difficult because AC Moore's website is like dead now. I also bought some gray. This is Stitch Studio by Nicole's Storybook Lullaby Jumbo. This is koala gray. It's a DK weight. I don't have a lot of DK weight yarn. I have a ton of worsted. I don't have a lot of DK. So I picked this up because gray is a good color to have on hand just for like stock, you know, to have. If I decide to do an amigurumi, if I decide to do a baby blanket, if I decide to do anything like that, this will be really helpful to just have on hand. It's good for boys, it's good for girls, it's good for everybody. Everybody likes gray. So there we go. And then the last thing I got was some studio samples. I love these studio samples. They're little 50-gram skeins of like whatever. And these are 20% wool, 20% nylon, 60% acrylic. Forgot to mention this is 100% acrylic. So wool, nylon, acrylic. Perfect for socks, I believe. And they're such cool colors. So I think this will go in my collection of things that could become socks. I got 2 because I needed 100 grams to make a pair of adult socks. Hand wash only. 60% acrylic, 20% nylon, only 20% wool. Probably can machine wash it. I'll just wash it. Fabulous, right? So that's what I got. And then I also wanted to mention, I have finally cracked open my Vogue Knitting the Ultimate Knitting book. Can't review it yet because I'm only this much in. but it is super good so far. I'm learning a ton about the different kinds of yarn, the different kinds of fibers. I'm reading it cover to cover. I'm sure it's meant to be more of a reference manual, but I'm reading it cover to cover because I just want every word. Give me every word. It's written in a really clear and concise, easy to understand way, and it's definitely more outdated than the previous edition that I had. So that's good. Almost forgot to mention, stop the presses. The sweater that I'm wearing, I actually did knit myself. This is the Wharfdale sweater by Sarah Hayden. I will link my project page below so you can get all the information about the pattern, the designer, the yarn, blah, 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 blah. All right. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Once again, if you want to find anything I talked about, description box below, and happy crafting. Bye.